Hello and welcome to viewers to a new episode of Windows Live on Nile TV International. I'm Karim Gamaluddin. I'm going to be your host for tonight's episode. And dear viewers, we're going to be dedicating tonight's episode to talk about the efforts, the relentless efforts exerted by the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities to revive the tourism industry. A lot of work has been done, and also very important discoveries, archaeological discoveries were made. Also, rehabilitation works in museums across the country is taking place. And to shed more light on this topic, we're most delighted to be joined here in the studio by Mrs. Rana Ehab, a heritage researcher. Good evening, Mrs. Rana, and thank you so much for joining us on Windows.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to know from you about the attention that the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities is paying towards the refurbishment and the improvement of the existing museums, as well as also inaugurating a number of museums in different areas to attract tourism, of course, namely the Grand Egyptian Museum, among others. Please elaborate.
Actually, the movement of creating or building a new museums in Egypt, it's not only for the tourists, it's also playing a very important role for the Egyptian people. So at the last years, the definition of the museums is development according to a lot of things that happened in the world. So it's not become only a place to visit and watching pieces and read what written about those pieces. It's also became an educational institution, a center for all the people who can learn from it, even for the people who suffered from any kind of disability. So the museum here, the development and the center itself, it became education center. It can be a playing ground. It can be something for a researcher, a library for the people who love reading about the monuments, about the heritage in general. So making many of kinds of museum around Egypt is useful for the international tourism, which has come for us, and also for the internal tourism. So it helped us to develop our minds, to increase the awareness of the people who will visit these places, even for the children who will visit these places, knowing and putting in their hearts the meaning of the love their country, how the country is being from the early beginning and how it was now. So that's it about the museums now.
Let's talk more specifically about the Grand Egyptian Museum. Of course, it's an art piece. The world is watching the progress that is being made, and also many are anticipating the inauguration to be a world-class event, exactly similar to, even maybe similar to the Golden Parade and the Museum of Civilization. Also, the Prime Minister has visited the museum recently. If you can tell us more about the developments taking place in the Grand Egyptian Museum, and how can it impact the tourism industry in Egypt in general?
From the early beginning, the place of the Grand Egyptian Museum is very, very important for the Egyptian tourism, because it's considered as the door of the Giza pyramid or the Giza plateau itself. So the place of the museum is very important, and what inside the museum is more important. And the museum, the building itself and its monument, considered one of the biggest ancient Egyptian museum, not only in Egypt, but actually in whole the world. So the ceremony of the opening of the Egyptian museum will be something we cannot imagine now what will happen in this place. Actually, I can talk about what inside the museum itself. For the first time, the treasure of King Tutankhamun will be in one place from the opening, from the date of the opening of the or the discovering the tomb of his tomb in the Valley of Kings. So all his treasure, it's about more than 5 4,000 piece for only King Tutankhamun will be on the gallery of King Tutankhamun, and also another pieces which is collected from the Egyptian Museum, the Coptic Museum, which is talk about the civilization, the chronology of ancient Egyptian from the early beginning till this moment. So at least on the display of the objects will be displayed. It's about 100 piece in the Grand Gallery and in the other places. When we mentioned it as the biggest museum in the world, it should have to be not only a museum or piece to watch. It also consists of theater. It consists of a child museum. It consists of a very large grant to make playing things and workshops for the people who are interested and learn more about the monuments, the process of excavation itself. It's also considered as one of the biggest conservatory labs in all Egypt. So it's a kind of amazing. Everything is done in this project is doing step by step, and we will be very happy when we entering from the door or the main gate of the museum or the Grand Egyptian Museum, and you will find King Ramses II is received you, welcoming you. He telling you welcome to our place. We are now dating back to the ancient time to see how it's amazing, the Egyptian country, how was the culture and the civilization in Egypt, doing a lot of things. It's not the meaning only in one thing, but they thinking about everything, economically, politically, everything.
Very impressive, and I believe the whole world are having their fingers crossed, waiting for the inaugural event of the Grand Egyptian Museum. Moving on to Mrs. Rana, to domestic tourism. In your opinion, how do you think we can boost the domestic tourism, and that Egyptians would know more about the archaeological sites and the beauty of their country?
Actually, if they have something to do in the place, Egyptians love being in a place not related to the heritage. If something related to their heritage, they will accept to see it. We can increase our role during the social media, during the media itself, during the television, to tell them how it's amazing to visit this place. Actually, the Ministry of Antiquity and Tourism playing a great role in this to encourage the people who are sitting around the area, and also involving the local community to work in the places that are in the museum, in any archaeological site or what else. So they helping them to doing this. Actually, they offered the transportation from the place to the place. It's very near. Doing offer and the national days, for example, to make you can enter any place for free, or any archaeological place or museum for a short time for free. So this is encourage the people to doing this, doing activities itself in the museum or in the archaeological site. This is a lot of things helps the people, not only the Egyptian but all the people to go to this place if they have the ability to do this.
Yes. Speaking about archaeological sites, there has been significant and very important archaeological discoveries in Saqqara and elsewhere. We have seen the Minister himself, Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, Dr. Khaled Al-Anani, visiting and also speaking to the media about foreign and local media about these archaeological sites and its importance. How do you think this can have a direct impact on boosting the numbers of tourists visiting Egypt?
Actually, the people is the international people caring more about our archaeology. So this is important to tell them what we have new in our museum. Egypt, depending on the cultural tourism, this is considered in our thing, it's not non-repeated tourism. So how will be this tourism a kind of repeated? By discovering more other things and showing it to all the people around the world. Here we have a lot to discover. Come to see it. come to see how it's amazing.
Yes.
The display, it will be completely different from the past. And actually, and also if there's something related to the colored coffin, for example, all the people love colored, like colored things, mummified. Recently, we discovered a great number of coffins in Saqqara and what else, and also in Luxor. Actually, if we Egypt, the land, if we doing anything, we will discover new heritage and new culture, and this is something not new in Egypt because it's normal.
Yes. Also, speaking about the promenade in Aswan and the beauty of Egypt, it's not only, I believe, limited to archaeology. Also, nature, the beautiful weather, and as I mentioned, the promenade in Aswan and elsewhere around the country. Do you think this also has a role to play?
Yes, for sure. It's amazing. So if I don't have money to pay to enter any archaeological site, for example, or a museum, so I can do something more joyful and more peaceful with my family and the Woods pathway during the Nile River, watching the light, watching the shade of the moon on the Nile. It will be something amazing to have a place to set. It's something also great. So this has helped the people also to see how Egypt is beautiful, especially when we are talking about Aswan. Aswan, one of the most beautiful country. It's not only in Egypt but in whole Africa, if we mention that. So if we focus on the cultural tourism, we will find that. If we focus on the natural tourism, we can find that. So it's a mix between the natural and the culture, and this has not happened actually in all the world. If we're looking at the UNESCO list, we will find the mixed places which is listed from cultural and natural. We will find that's a little number. It's according for 10 or maybe less, maybe then more, not only. But in Aswan, one of the most places that we have the both mixed natural and the culture. You can enjoy to take a boat on the Nile River and going through the Nile River. If you want to visit Fila Temple, for example, you have to go with a boat to the island to see how it's amazing. So all of these process put in our hearts the meaning of peace.
Yes.
We can create more ideas and imagination about just seeing the beautiful color of the Nile River.
Yes. Also, the Ministry of Health and Population has made a huge effort in combating the COVID-19, of course, and they have rolled out the vaccinations, and some restrictions are lifted. What your expectations for the upcoming season, tourism season? Do you think that there will be an influx in the numbers of tourists, or there will be some limitations because of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Actually, after all of this, especially the Golden Parade in Egypt, all the people around the world is crazy about to visit Egypt. So if we focus on the social media and the trends on, all the people want to visit the pyramid, want to visit all the places. Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities prepared all the archaeological sites and the museum to receive a large number of tourists in its places, and by follow all the instruction which is coming from the Ministry of Health. So this is one of the big efforts that the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities done during these places. So we aren't worried. We welcoming all the tourists from all the world, and don't be worried. We taking our all cares about the places, and you will be very enjoy in Egypt and visiting all the sites from Alexandria to Aswan.
Thank you so much, and by this we conclude, and we're looking forward to receiving tourists to Egypt, and it's safe, and it's welcoming all the tourists from all over the world. We really thank you, and we appreciate your insight, Mrs. Rana Ehab, a heritage researcher. Thank you so much for joining us on Windows.
Thank you.
And dear viewers, by this we come to the end of tonight's episode of Windows live on Nile TV International. And till we meet again, this is goodbye. ميرسي يا فندم، نورتينا.